aside from music, I know that it was in your adult years that you learned to speak our ancestors' native tongue. Like, do you want to share that story, or like how you came to learn to speak
Yeah,
Samoan? Because
yeah, I
I'm
can.
still in the category of being monolingual. I only know English, so
Oh
I'm
no,
trying to emulate what you're doing because I want to get there too.
no. So it's and like I said, Samoan, Fa Samoan is my second language. It's a secondary language. So it's you know, English is always going to be my first language. So when you hear me speak English, obviously, it's a lot better. So it's something that's always in progress, always in work. But when I found out I was going to have a daughter, there was always that interest there. And I remember Kaz, if you guys know Kaz, the field style. So the field style, is another one, of close friends, but a mentor, especially, releasing full Samoan rap albums at a time when, there weren't even Samoan rap songs. He said, hey, man, he said, Samoa is always there. He said, it never leaves. Samoa is here, it's inside. He said, so it's just waiting on you to activate it. That language, it's always there. And it's always going to come to you as long as you have, it can be Samoan blood, it can be Mexican blood, it can be Fijian blood, but that blood running inside of you is always, there, waiting to just activate the culture, everything, you just have to have that interest and have that heart for it. So finding out about my daughter, something just clicked. My parents didn't speak Samoan in the household growing up because, my pops came over in the military, as, I'm sure, a lot of other Samoans share the same story. They were mistreated, as people do, when they don't understand something. And in trying to assimilate into American culture at that time, into the U.S., my dad thought that it was better to not speak the language at all. He said, okay, I have to be like this. I have to speak like this. And we got a little older, none of my siblings speak any Samoan, aside from the basic words that we all know. Hey, what's up, solid, and things like that. And, my dad came to me one day and he said, son, I apologize. He said, I apologize for not speaking Samoan. He said, I just didn't know any better. He said, I was trying to raise a family in a foreign country and I thought this was the way to assimilate. He said, I didn't know that, this wasn't the way to do. He said, if I can go back, I would speak it. But I told him, I said, well, I'm having a daughter. I said, now is the time. I said, now is the time to make up for that. So I used to work graveyard shift at the time. I was working heavy machinery. And I told my dad, man, they live right down the street. They still live right down the street. I said, I'm going to come over every day after work, man. I said, before I go home, before my wife goes to work, I said, I'm going to come over an hour in the morning. So I went over every day and I started taking notes, in my phone. I would write down words. I would ask him things. I would take it. And everything that he gave me in that hour, I'd take it home and study. Then I would go back to work at night and I would create dialogue with an imaginary person. I would just talk, hey, yo, what am I? And I would talk to this imaginary Samoan person. And that's how I started to build my Samoan, through that. I remember one time my brother told my dad, man, I want to learn Russian. My dad told my brother, now, how are you going to learn Russian? You don't even know Samoan. Yeah, it doesn't sound like something Samoan say. But my dad said, if you want to show pride in your people, he said the best way to show pride in who you are and where you're from is to learn your language. And so I took those steps and I always knew something was missing, inside, and speaking language was a big part of that. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take these steps to learn this because if my parents pass on tomorrow, my siblings don't speak it, I don't speak it, how is this language going to survive? It's not a language like, even though you can go and learn a little more, than before now. No, so William, he's teaching, he's all over the place now or whatnot. But even then, sometimes I'll take things to my dad and be like, nah, that's wrong, son. Or whatnot. But, learning that language, keep that language alive. I want to have something to pass on to my kids so that it doesn't just die off with my parents. And not even that, it's there, it's inside of me. So it's been a long journey. I started about 6 years ago and I'm still learning every day. But it's a journey that I embrace, because it's part of us, it's who we are. And even then, I tell whether or not you speak Samoan or you take, that journey to learn your native tongue, it doesn't change the fact that we have Samoan blood running inside of us. Nobody can ever take away the fact that we're Samoan, whether you're Afakasi, whether you're full blood, if you speak the language, good for you. If you don't speak the language, and somebody speaks the language, stand by, encourage also to speak the language, help them out. So many times I see people put others down for not being able to speak the language. Well, hey, you should be helping your brother out, man. That's what we're supposed to do anyway. Help them learn about their culture if they don't know their culture. That's how we build. Communities build through building. They don't build through tearing down.